right, hey, what's up, y'all? So we are in Natural Solutions Month, and today we're talking about skin protection. Specifically, we're talking about sunscreens and lip balms. Now, why are we here talking about this? Well, we want natural solutions to things that might otherwise be toxic. And the reason we're talking about sunscreens and lip balms specifically is, in an ideal world, in an idealistic world, what's optimal would be not putting anything on our skin, right? But the reality is that most of us will put something on our skin because we have to in some situations, especially if we don't understand the information we're going to talk about today. And so if we're going to put something on our skin, it might as well be the best options that we have out there. And we want to understand what to avoid and what things are relatively safer to put on our skin. All right. So remember, we've talked before in our nutritional vitality series about toxins and toxicants. Toxins, by definition, damage cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems. It's very nutrient depleting. And so we want to minimize our exposure to these things as much as possible. Okay. Now let's specifically talk about sunscreens. The goal is not to avoid sun exposure. The goal is to be smart and to minimize damage and excess exposure, okay? So conventional wisdom tells us that we need to avoid the sun because of the damage that it causes, because of the potential for cancer and melanomas, and probably some other reasons. And what we know in the holistic health world is that the sun is actually really good for you, and it's crucial for long-term health and vitality. All right, so our ancestors prayed to the sun. Farmers depend on the sun. The seasons change from the sun. The sun gives life to the earth. The sun is what makes all this stuff possible here. We have co-evolved with the sun. We have learned to adapt to it and benefit from it, just like all other organisms on the planet. And like many things in this health world, it's really about ebb and flow. One of the best resources that I found recently out there on the benefits of sun exposure is Dr. Ruscio's latest post on sun exposure, where he compiles a lot of the latest scientific research and data on the benefits of sun exposure. The benefits basically give us improvement in all health markers and resilience to all chronic degenerative diseases. And then, of course, we get the benefits of increased vitamin D levels. Where supplementation may be beneficial, it's not a replacement for sun exposure. All right, so the recommendation that Dr. Ruscio came to and that we all kind of agree on is about 10 to 15 minutes of direct sun exposure during the peak hours of the day. And this is like maybe a few days a week at a minimum. This is going to give you all the health benefits, the protective benefits. It's going to make you look good. The best time to get sun, again, contrary to conventional wisdom, is going to be during the peak hours of the day, because this is when we have a balance of UVB to UVA spectrum UV. What's dangerous is when we get only UVA and we don't balance that with UVB. So if I'm only getting morning sun or evening sun, or I'm putting on a lot of sunscreen that blocks out UVB, that's where we start to run into some potential problems with skin damage. All right. So let's talk about some ways to protect the body. We definitely want to get out and get some sun exposure because it's healthy for us. It makes us look good. But let's talk about how to protect ourselves naturally. Real food is super protective when it comes to sun exposure, because the nutrients that we get from real food, it's kind of common sense, right? We build ourselves with the right components, and then the body has the ability to protect itself and benefit from this potential hormetic stressor. The fatty acids we consume, like arachidonic acid, alpha-linolenic acid, linoleic acid, all these contribute to cell structure and help our bodies make energy the right way, and they're also anti-inflammatory. All right, so a balance of real foods, including animal meats and traditional fats, give us these fatty acids. Specifically, EPA and DHA help contribute to anti-inflammation. We're going to get those from fatty fish like wild-caught salmon. And if some of us aren't consuming those things, a lot of us will take the virgin cod liver oils, which give us those omega-3 fatty acids. And then cholesterol is super protective and healing. All right, it's one of the body's healing agents. And so consuming like animal meats and traditional fats is going to give us dietary cholesterol, although our body does make cholesterol. And then also vitamin C, carotenoids, and some polyphenols that we get some from plant-based foods is going to be very protective as far as the skin goes. And so basically it all boils down to just eating real food. We definitely want to make an effort to avoid the toxic fats and oils, because when my body assimilates these soybean oils and canola oils and vegetable oils and corn oils, then it displaces my body's ability to assimilate the right kind of fats that we just talked about. And so avoiding these toxic fats is going to be absolutely crucial for long-term health, and especially when it comes to sun exposure. So again, our fallback is we just need to make sure that we eat real food according to our definition, focusing on nutrient density, which gives us all the benefits that we're looking for from real food. We always want to think about ourselves as real foodies, and our basic strategy with real food always is eat 100% fresh real food most of the time. We got to be strategic with our carbohydrates, and we have to allow periods of space in not eating, because that's when the magic of fat burning happens. All right. Now, real world example. When I went to the CrossFit Games years ago, I think it was 2013, there were some events that were outdoors and there was no shade whatsoever. I had no idea what to expect because it was my first time going to this thing, and I got a ton of sun exposure, but this was after me being in real food for a couple of years already. And before then, I felt like I burned pretty easily. I remember coming back from those games and going to see one of my butchers at Whole Foods Market, and I was so red, the butcher was just like, dude, you look like a tomato. And I was like, man, I'm definitely gonna burn, I'm gonna peel. And within 2 days, I went back to a normal tan. I never peeled, and it just blew my mind. And recently I had read a few articles about the benefits of rebuilding yourself with these proper fatty acids, and how that contributes to protective benefits when it comes to sun exposure. And I was completely convinced. I remember doing a blog post on one of my old websites about it back then. And then again here, this past year in 2019, we went to the CrossFit Games again. We were outdoors a lot of the time. We were very smart about it. We had our shirts off a lot of the time, but then if we felt ourselves getting red or hot, put a hat on, put a long sleeve shirt, or cover up with a towel. And again, I never burned. And I have not used sunscreen in as long as I can remember, and I've never burned. And I get a lot of sun. So our sun protection tips in summary are gonna be eat real food, right? Eat for nutrients, eat the way that we recommend, because that's gonna be very protective in and of itself. I don't care what the fairness of your skin is. And then over time, you want to build a tolerance. So what we recommend is spending about 10 minutes most days in midday sun. What I do now is during something that looks like a lunch break, I'll go outside and time 5 minutes facing the sun, 5 minutes away from the sun with my shirt off. And then outside of that, I allow myself to go on walks and things without my shirt and go to the pool and stuff like that. But a minimum of 10 minutes most days of direct sun exposure to build up your tolerance. It's going to make you look good. It's really good for you. Outside of that, just cover up. That's what's ideal. Put a hat on, put a long sleeve shirt on, or some pants if needed. Usually I don't need pants because the angle of the sun is not hitting my legs like it is the top of my body. So I always carry around a long sleeve shirt, a sun protective shirt. And by the way, there's a lot of sun-based shirts out there that are not hot. Even in Las Vegas heat, I can put my long sleeve shirt on, super breathable, feels really good. All right, but the best recommendation is to moderate your sun exposure, to build your tolerance, and to cover up when you need to. And then it is beneficial to have a sunscreen available just in case, or if you're in those situations where you just can't get out of sun exposure. Or one of these fair skinned people that no matter what you do, you're gonna get some sun that's reflecting and you're gonna get some kind of redness or something like that, all right? So now let's talk about sunscreens. When it comes to sunscreens, we want safety and we also want efficacy. So we don't want to be such health zealots that we avoid things that are going to be that actually work and produce some results, all right? So our strategy when we come up with our recommendations here is we research the best list of sunscreens based on EWG. EWG has a skin deep section, and specifically they have a sunscreen guide. Very comprehensive information there, so I'd recommend if you want to, you can go through and read it. I'm summarizing it here today. But I research all of that information and absorb it, and then I cross-reference with my holistic health leaders to see if they have any recent posts on sunscreens. People like Mercola, Chris Kresser, Dr. Axe, Mark Sisson, maybe the Paleo Mom, Sarah Ballantyne. And then I try to combine all that information together and then come up with some specific recommendations as far as brands. And then I research those on a place like Amazon and try to pick out the top rated products. So I think that's a pretty solid process. Researching EWG, and EPA, I need to throw that in there. So EWG, EPA, the holistic thought leaders, combine all that info and then find the best products on Amazon, all right? When it comes to ingredients, we want a sunscreen that is not irritating to the skin or causes some kind of a skin allergy. They need to be able to withstand the powerful effects of UV radiation and not break down or degrade into something more harmful. Sprays should be avoided because any toxic chemicals that are in that product will be inhaled, and it causes way more severe damage inside the lungs than it does on the skin. And mineral sunscreens are going to be the best because non-mineral sunscreens usually get absorbed into the skin, and you can measure it in tissues and interstitial fluid and stuff like that. All right. So ingredients to absolutely avoid: oxybenzone, vitamin A for topical, and the only reason for that is because we see that when vitamin A is combined with the sunscreen and at the level of the skin, it interrupts the body's ability to make vitamin D and causes some kind of skin lesions and things like that. Not that vitamin A is bad for you to consume, we just don't want to put it in a sunscreen. And then we also don't want added insect repellent because of the synergistic effect of the toxins. All right. Products to avoid: we probably want to avoid sprays for the reason we just talked about, powders for the same reason, and then also SPF 50 and above, because really it's hard to actually quantify these SPF levels in the first place. So it gives people this false sense of protection. If I have a SPF of 100, then I lather that stuff on, I feel like I can stay out in the sun all day long, and the reality is it's still going to be damaging to me, right? Being in the sun for too long because I have this false sense of protection. And they tend to be not that much more effective than something of a lower SPF. Usually these higher SPFs don't have a good balance of UVB to UVA protection. And remember, one of the damaging effects that we're going to experience is when we have a lot of UVA with very little UVB. We want a balance of ultraviolet rays coming into our skin. And then typically to get that higher SPF, they're going to contain more chemicals, so we want to avoid those things. The things we do want to look for are going to be the mineral-based sunscreens, so that's titanium dioxide and zinc oxide. You can also experiment with things like avobenzone and then also Mexerel SX. All right, but we like the mineral-based ones. All right. So products to look for: ideally we're looking for a cream. We want something that's a broad spectrum protection, and we want something that's water resistant. Recommended SPF 15 to 30 or 15 to 50. I recommend somewhere in the 30 to 35 range. All right. So our top picks are going to be, we love Badger. All right. Badger is a great product. The 35 SPF. The one that doesn't have any other extra ingredients, the unscented version, is going to be your most optimal choice. Great reviews on Amazon, highly recommended by the EWG. We also like Wax Heads lotion, and again, this is the one that's recommended highly on EWG, and it's the non-scented one as well. All right. Another great product is going to be Rocket Pure, SPF of 30. Another EWG top rated one. And then I've heard really, really good reviews from a bunch of females out there that use Beauty Counter, the Beauty Counter Counter Sun Mineral Sunscreen Lotion, SPF 30. A little bit more expensive, so we haven't experimented with it, but I've heard really, really great things about it. And while we're on the topic, let's just go ahead and throw in our lip balm recommendations. So Burt's Bees. I was surprised to find out that they were actually a highly rated product. You know, I was thinking because they've become so commercialized they wouldn't be, but Burt's Bees, top ratings on EWG, also great reviews on Amazon. Just the basic version, I think it does have a little bit of peppermint oil in it, which is fine. And then Dr. Bronner's lip balm, the naked one is the one to go for. Great reviews on EWG and also Amazon. And then the same company that makes the Badger sunscreen, they have a really good lip balm line. That's something good to experiment with. So I would say, taking all this information in, your homework would be start to work on your tan. Work on that 10 minutes, 5 minutes each side of direct sun exposure most days in the brightest hours of the day, between 10 and 2 ideally. And then maybe invest in some intention-based sunscreen clothing, like a good hat, maybe a wide-brimmed hat, some long-sleeve shirts, something that's breathable, that feels really good, that maybe looks cool, maybe some pants if you need it, and then invest in a good sunscreen just in case. All right. And if you haven't joined us already, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter at superhumantransformation.com. Also, all this information and all our resources are located at our community website at community.superhumantransformation.com. We'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for listening.